James and Gilliand, in their book Crisis Intervention Strategies, outline 4 different stages of burnout. And it's interesting, the first stage is actually enthusiasm. Now, in the human service profession, enthusiasm is very, very important, but it can be misdirected. And I worked with a youth worker in juvenile justice who his whole angle was to change young people. And he'd become quite jaded because changing young people is not the purpose of youth work. We don't change young people, we support them, and we help support them to be able to create resilience and to be able to create interdependency within their lives, but we're not there to build a house, meaning that young people don't respond the same way that wood and nails do. And so enthusiasm needs to be directed in a way that's appropriate, in a way that's trained, in a way that's educated. The second stage that they highlight is stagnation. So it's when you're finding no motivation or no progression, in your personal life and in your work life and in your finances, and you're looking around at everybody else and going, well, I'm stuck where I am and everybody else is moving ahead of me. And I don't feel like my career's moving forward, I don't feel like my life's moving forward, and things are just the same old all the time. And you lose that drive to grow and to be able to celebrate the small wins and to celebrate being part of the youth work profession, the human service profession, and you're stagnating by just looking around you and going, okay, well, everyone else is moving forward and I'm stuck here. The third one is frustration, which is quite obvious, and you're frustrated with your work, but you're also just frustrated with your clients, and then that can often be passed on to clients, so that when a client rocks up for the 4th time in a row and they didn't go to that 4th job interview that you set up for them, and you can really overreact to that client and put your emotional anger onto that client, which is just totally not appropriate. And you might want to do something instead of doing a cost-benefit analysis and saying, what's the cost of you doing this and what's the benefit of you doing this? And if a client doesn't decide to go, clients aren't houses, and it's not your job to force them to do anything. And so frustration grows. And the 4th stage is when we become apathetic and we burn out. And that's what apathy really is. It's that loss of passion, that loss of values, that loss of caring, and we reach burnout. And they highlight a few different ways to be able to deal with burnout. You've got informal processes. And so that's things like setting boundaries, taking a break, being realistic, and encouraging your creative side. So that's all the internal things that you can do when you start realizing that you've probably set unrealistic goals, or you're starting to stagnate in your profession and it's not bringing you the same life that it did, and you're starting to get frustrated. What can you internally do? Who are the people in your life that excite you and that inspire you and that motivate you to be who you are? Maybe you're doing all those things and you're still apathetic and you're still burnt out. That's really the time to move towards a formal response to burnout, and that's assessment, that's intervention through training, and intervention through the organisation. So what does the organisation have on offer that could support you? Is there training? I know that when I worked in juvenile justice, there was actually free counselling that they offered. And so maybe that the service that you're working for, you actually need to approach them and say, the system that we've set up, remember that whole macro system approach, that's the system that we're working in, is unhelpful for us to grow. And it's actually oppressing staff, and the staff aren't able to function in their role as a youth worker. So there's an informal response that we can have, and there are actual formal approaches that we can have that are very, very commonplace within service structures, particularly within human service organisations, some of which are good and some of which are not so great.